It did, but basically spun up 50 different things that I'm trying to do the website. Yeah, let's make it. It's the same.
Excellent. No, I think we're just talking. It's coming through on straight fine. Cool. Excuse me. You want to take it?
How's it going? Good.
It's good to see. Good to see you, mate.
You know. I don't know what we're saying. I forgot to use the door. Door back to the door. The fire, if a fire starts.
Right. I'm on YouTube. I'm looking off the camera show, but hi everyone. So, welcome, Svelte Society London, October 2023. Yeah, thank you. We've got 2 talks lined up for us tonight. But first of all, we've got to go through the usual stuff. We need to do the meetup. First of all, we want to thank Codat, Dan, David for sorting us out of this lovely space. And also want to thank Chris for the drinks this evening. So thank you for that. Meatball pizza. Oh, it's gone. Brilliant. Fantastic. Right, so the schedule. Hang on, before we do the schedule, housekeeping. Code of conduct. Everyone's read the code of conduct? I don't see any nodding. Okay, I was about to say you'd have to immediately leave, otherwise. We got a link, yeah. So if there's any issues, you're harassed by anyone, or anyone's just been generally not a nice person, talk to myself, Anthony, Akash, and report it to us or someone else. And we will look into that. We want to make sure it's a safe environment for everyone to be in. So that's why we have the code of conduct. Okay, schedule. Hang on. Housekeeping. Housekeeping? Right, code of conduct. Oh, so Luz, if you don't know, down here, right, and then they're on the left. I don't need to know that online though, so that's fine. Okay. First up, we've got Chanting. I'm sorry, I always murder your name. So sorry, from Zendesk on how to do type safe query like GraphQL. That's why you're the founder, isn't it?
Yes.
You can't point out mistakes. So sorry, James. And then we've got all the way from Italy. We've got. Are you making sure you're getting the worst pictures of me? Yeah, thank you.
Your job, so it's good that someone else is doing it.
We've got Paolo Riccuti from Many Matter. Riccuti. You're welcome. Sorry. And his talk is I like to move it. And you're thinking it now? Good. I think he's going to show that slide as well. So while we leave this up here, because apparently it's not long on Paolo's slides, but we're going to get Yang sorted, and then we're going to start. So this is the moment of truth, because we've got everything lined up at the moment on David's computer. Jan, you okay? Yeah. Okay, so if we just move this over here. Right. Share it. Oh no, sorry. Before we do this, try and get yourself logged in. I'm so sorry. Dang it, I'm so sorry. We said the thank you, but we didn't actually give our hosts a minute to talk about.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
Easily.
Well pro. So we've got David from Codat, who wants to say a few words about hiring.
Yes, thank you very much. So we're Codat. This is the office that you're in today, and we're hosting the Svelte event.
So just a couple of things around Codat. So we are the API for lending and automated accounting. And we are currently hiring a couple of positions for front end and full stack developers. If you're a Svelte fan, you want to use or you use Svelte, we're hiring specifically for Svelte people or Svelte developers. So do let us know if you want to. Also, you can scan the code and you can have a look at sort of the jobs online and have a read of deep spec. Okay, that's it. And I'll pass over to yes.
What's your name?
Thanks for Codat provides such amazing place. Actually, it's my second time to be here. It's very lovely place. Yeah. Let's see. So is it working?
Are we good? Yeah? Hang on, so just let me check the comments. No one's screaming, so I guess so. Yeah,
Okay. So I'll start. Yeah, today I will talk about how to get type-safe from queries like GraphQL. Actually, like GraphQL means without GraphQL. Yeah. I'm Jia Sheng. Yeah, I'm the co-founder of ZenStack. We will talk about it later. Yeah. So yeah, it came back to the first ever meetup I ever attended. This one is on January, I think, this year. So you are there?
I was there.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. It's talking about the GraphQL versus TRPC, and you see the middle is me. I'm so happy because I ask a question and I get a tag of the TRPC. To be honest, I'm a huge fan of the TRPC. The moment I saw it, I thought, wow, this is definitely what I need. Yeah, but it's funny, in my last company, I used GraphQL because we kind of had big engineer teams, like 20 engineers, maybe half front end, half back end. And to be honest, still until now, I still think GraphQL is a very most efficient solution if you have the separated front end and back end team. And for a very big project, I highly recommend to use GraphQL. But after left my last company, it's just me and my co-founder, two of us, building the web application. So kind of too complicated to still need to write the schema and all those things. So that's why I think the TRPC is very good fit for us. It's very efficient. Sometimes I just forget about the API. It's just like it do the local functions. But still, there is one thing I miss so much about GraphQL. That's actually the question I asked in this picture. That's why I got that tag. That thing I'm missing is this. If any of you use GraphQL, you definitely know it. It's in the front page of the GraphQL's official website. This is ask for what you need, get exactly that. That's a very beautiful thing for the GraphQL. But I think it's more than that. If you use it's called GraphQL code generation, you not only get the data of exactly what you want, you also get the type of exactly what you want. It's a type safety, that's what we call. So yeah, this is always my favorite PowerPoint. I use it every time. I think part of the reason is that I'm not very good at creating the PowerPoint. So yeah, always just show you guys the code. Okay. Still, is it big enough?
Yeah. More.
Okay.
Yeah, people watch it on YouTube, so.
Okay. So actually, yeah, this project is official project from the GraphQL code generation, and this is a very simple app. It's just you show the movies and all the years. So I want to explain a little bit for what I mentioned. So now let's say we have the title and the release date. Let's say if we want to add the director. Okay, you see, you directly instantly get the error because the type doesn't have this field. If you guys have ever worked on the RESTful API, I bet you definitely meet this a lot, especially it's non-reference pointer. After you see, oh, some data is not there, I have to ask the backend developer to add that field for me. But with GraphQL, you can definitely, so all you need is just to write this thing here. Okay, you see, you can find the data, and it's there. Yeah, that's what I mean. You get the exactly the type safety with the GraphQL. But some people might wonder why this cannot be done in the TRPC. Actually, that's exactly the question I asked for the author of the TRPC, the Alex. Here I will give you a little brief introduction about why you can do that. So actually, to be able to do that in the TypeScript, it's thanks to the powerful type inference of the TypeScript and the generic support of it. So let's say we want to build a local version to have this ability. So here is a simple example. Let's say we have two entities, the post and the user. So here is the input parameter I want to get. So you query for this post ID, and then sometimes you want to get the author come back together. So I have this Boolean flag with author. It's true or false. So simply, if you guys know the TypeScript type inference, it's not very too hard to write this one with generic and some type inference TypeScript provide. So here is a function. So load post, you give the args like this defined here. So let's test it. If you just use this one load post, you only give the ID without the with author, or its default value is just the false. You give the p, it's just the post. But later, if you pass this parameter with the true, you see it's a post and the user. Yeah, that's a good thing. It exactly works like the GraphQL. But later, if you want to try the TRPC, I think the best thing of the TRPC, you can reuse whatever the existing local function, but you just wrap it around, use the TRPC utilities, then everything is just working for across the network boundary. That's a very beautiful thing of the TRPC. But in this case, you kind of hit the limitation. So let's say this is a TRPC version. So you need to define your router. This router is just the same. And you define your input parameter with the Auth, and they will do the type validation and the runtime validation. That's very cool. And here we just use the same function defined above. You see this load post. We just use it here. So it becomes a TRPC version. It's very easy to do, but the problem here, you see, we use the same thing as above, but here, both T1, T2, they have the same type. You lose that dynamic type inference like you do in the local function. So yeah, that's kind of boring me. Maybe you guys think it's not a very big thing, but you know, people hate losing something. Once you got it, you don't have it, you just feel, wow, I really want that so bad. So I don't remember who said that. Sometimes if you cannot find the solution, so you just build it. Yeah, so that's what we do. Actually, yeah, because Svelte, I think some of guys might know that actually I already gave a demonstration about the Zenstack at the meetup of in the SvelteKit. So in that Svelte meetup, I gave the demo for the how to use the Zenstack and the SvelteKit to build to do SaaS app. So that's exactly the same app I showed you guys before. So here we just use the Zenstack is built on top of the Prisma. So on top of Prisma, we add this access control layer. Sorry, they don't have the syntax highlight. It should have it. It's just the GitHub code space. Maybe I just forget to install the extension. So after we add this access control layer, we can directly generate the APIs and the front end query because it's now the safe. before that, it's not safe to directly expose your database to the front end. Then with this guarded, you just can safely get the data you are allowed to access for individual user. So with the code generation now, you can see this is the original version. Yeah, actually this is a backend code, you know, right? It's in the server.ts. So it's just the Prisma. So if everyone you played with Prisma, you know the Prisma did a very good thing for this. You can see, let me show you. If I just don't query this, I think this is just the to-dos you get. But you can use this, select ID equals true, title equals true. Okay, then you see it gets the exact type you want, and the better thing is that you can just do it nicely, like the owner, select, name, okay. Yeah, you see, but this part actually is done by the Prisma. So but usually actually in SvelteKit, I think that's the good thing. You just write it once. You do not need to write it in the front end. Yeah, because it's all handled by itself already. So, but sometimes maybe you still need to do some query in the front end. So what we generated, we just mirror exactly the Prisma client API in the front end hooks. So this is the thing we do. Okay, I already put it here. Yeah, actually, same thing. Yeah, you see. So I think if you are using Prisma, I think the very good thing is that you get very consistent API calling both in your backend and in your front end. Yeah, and I think okay. Oh, I forget. The last thing is that actually because I think this one. Yeah, the reason that TRPC cannot do it is because ideally the reason you can do it because originally this function is a generic function. So you can use your own input parameter to instantiate to your specific version. So means you can, in one version you get with the author, another version you get without author. But the problem with the TRPC that they do that type inference statically because they already use type generic things to trying to enforce something for themselves, especially out parameter. So they cannot do that again because the function is already static. So in order to solve that, because in the Zen stack we use the schema generation, so there it gives us a chance to try to work around this thing. So here is the workaround version. Actually, we can also, besides the front-end query, we can also generate the API. You can choose it whether the RPC version, REST version, or the TRPC version. This is the TRPC version we generate. I just write a simple schema to stimulate it. It's just a user post, you can see. And this is a generated router. Actually, you don't need to write a single line of the code. It's already generated. You can just use it like this. You see, again, it's just this one is without the author, and this one, they have the author here. Yeah, if you are more interested to know the detail of this, actually, my co-founder actually write an article to explain all the technical detail about this. If you are interested, you can just, it's in dev tool, you can just search limitation of TRPC, then you can get that. Yeah, and yeah, that's pretty much all I want to say. Oh, by the way, I think I want to give the credit to the 10 stack. Actually, all the front-end query we generate, we use the 10 stack library, and because of this, it supports both SvelteKit and React and the Vue. Yeah, I think that's very beautiful for the 10 stack. And the last funny thing, I still remember, actually the first time I met with Akash. So I just introduced with him what I'm doing. I said, I'm building a tool called Zen Stack. And Akash was like, whoa, you are building 10 stack. I mean, oh, sorry, not 10 stack, it's Zen Stack, Akash. Oh, okay, I see. Okay. Yeah, so I'm really hoping that someday maybe people can say, "Whoa, you are building the stack." Yes, thank you very much. Yeah, that's fine.
Awesome. So, questions? Anyone? Anyone online want to ask a question? You've stayed on. Sorry, I'm sorry, mate. Thank you so much. Ching, yeah.
Worth just mentioning exactly how much code reuse you're saving, because I've got a feeling that there's quite a lot of code reuse.
Yeah, actually, in the last meetup, I talked about that, how to build that whole functional working SaaS to do just with less than 300 lines of the TypeScript code. Yeah, because the code generation handles a lot of part of that. Yeah, you just focus on building the UI part, your logic part. Yeah, that's why we're building this.
So that's like a third of the code.
So you mentioned something about the schema.z model.
Yes.
How are the schemas generated like from that schema?
Okay, so this the model schema. Do you know the Prisma schema? Yeah. So it's just the Prisma schema with this access policy. It's fully compatible with the Prisma schema. We just always we add something about it. And actually, under the hood, we will generate the Prisma schema from this Z model. Then you still get all the benefits the Prisma provided you, like the migration or the data studio. Something is just all there.
Is there a tutorial video specifically walking people through that?
We have tutorial.
There you go. Make a bit of content on it.
Yeah, we have some posts, but we haven't done any video yet. But that's a good suggestion. Maybe someday we will do that.
How are you? Sorry.
Maybe the May talk that you gave. It's a good.
Yeah. I will send you the. That's a good suggestion.
Actually, what you just put in there?
How do you inject your own types into CRPC?
Ask him.
No, I already put it in.
Oh, we just generate all these tabs from the schema.
You pass it.
We generated the router, TRPC router. All the router we just generate. Actually, we make use of another guy. He already made the first version of to generate the TRPC router from the Prisma. We took it and we changed it a lot. So we just use it. Yeah. That guy is kind of popular. I forget his name. Yeah. Oma what? Yeah.
Are you the core maintainer of ZenStack?
Yeah, I'm the co-creator, just me and my co-founder, two of us.
Awesome. So you got called out at the start there.
Yeah.
For using React.
Yeah.
That's not meetup.
I use everything.
Hold it back with the SvelteKit at the end. So,
Yeah.
there was nothing online, I don't think. Someone asked about hiring Svelte devs, so I'll leave David to pick that up. Yeah. So you on the YouTube?
I will do.
Okay, cool. Paolo Ricciuti.
Thank you.
I'm so sorry. I need that.
I can do this. But I don't think it's good.
Right. That's yours.
Yes.
Let's just get that shared.
So, just for
I think it's this one.
So, Paolo now does This Week in Svelte as well.
Yes.
So you do This Week in Svelte. You work at the place which I've forgotten where the name is. Main Matter. I couldn't get an SVG to put on my slides, but no one cares about that anyway. And you're here to talk about the new browser with transitions, right?
Yes.
Cool.
And Papa Ricciuti's right at the back there.
I'm Papa Ricciuti.
Yeah, I mean.
Thank you.
Okay, welcome everyone. This is, as you can see, and as Prince Julian is like reminding us, I like it moving on, which has a typo, but I mean, don't worry. First thing first, who am I? I am Paolo Ricciuti. I come from Campobasso, Italy, the land of pizza, which is not the one that I'm a Svelte ambassador, which just means that basically I won't shut up about Svelte enough that the maintainers decided to make it official. You can find me as Paolo Ricciuti on Twitter. I should say X, but it's Twitter, so it's close. You can find me as Paolo Ricciuti on GitHub. And I work as a full stack software engineer at Main Matter, which is very cool because I get to work with Svelte, and we also teach Svelte. Like we have a workshop, but also like we do team augmentation. I can never say it. Basically, like we build application with Svelte, but also like teach Svelte to the one that are working with us, which is very cool. And I want to emphasize the fact that I am a full stack software engineer because this means that I totally suck at design. So it's not unusual to receive a message like this one. Like it's probably very, very small. I try to zoom in, probably. So from the designer, you can get something like, hey, the new design drop. So you open Figma, obviously, and you get this. I mean, I designed this. You can see it probably. It's a pretty cool design. Like you get these like you can swap things around. If I can click, you can order them. You can click here and move things. Oh, if I can click, things like move things from one side to the other. So obviously you jump into code. You start sipping your coffee. You are on fire, and you do all of these very, very quickly. You send it to the designer, and the designer say, "Cool." But the transition in the menu and the button are a bit harsh. Can you smooth them out? And I mean, she's right, because if you hover over here, like the transition is very harsh. And even like, if I try to focus here, you can't really tell that this button is flipping. So you encounter the first bit of code that allow you to have this transition. And it's a transition. In CSS, you can do transition. You can basically use whatever rule you want. So in this case, we are transitioning the background color on the li and the transform on the button. And so just by doing these, basically you get like this smooth transition between this color. So you can have the transition of like, in this case, we are a very long transition of 500 milliseconds. But just by doing this, you can see that like the transition is much, much smoother. And even if I try to do this, like you can see the thing flip like this. And so obviously you send it to the designer and she say, wonderful, but I just talked with the client and they want the emoji into the logo to scale up and down a bit. I mean, okay. I mean, it's what the client wants, so it's not a problem. So you encounter your second bit of animation, and that's exactly like that. It's an animation. So you can use the animation inside every class CSS selector. You basically get to choose the name, in this case, bounce. You can choose the duration. You can choose what the animation should do when it finishes. In this case, alternate between the two states. And you can choose how long it has to go. In this case, infinite. And then you can define the keyframes. So you do add keyframes. You choose the name. And then you can use from scale to 1 to scale to 1.5. You can define also other pieces of information. Like if you want at 50%, you can make it do other things. So you do all of this and like I mean, there you go. Okay. You send it to the designer and she say, you are the best. Now let's talk about those lists. You can't really tell when they are being sorted. Can you sort this out? And I mean, but she's right, because if you try to sort this, like the list jumps between one state and the other. So it's very, like, it's not a very good user experience. But luckily, you are using Svelte at work because you are using Svelte at work, right? So Svelte provide you with a very cool things, which is this flip animation. If you can import from Svelte animate, and you can use it inside an H block. So you do this animate column flip, and pay attention because it needs to be a keyed each. Because basically Svelte needs to know that this button is the same button of the other loop. So what's this flip animation? Let's talk through what the flip animation is. The flip animation, like this is the first, and this is the last. Because flip stands for first, last, invert, plane. So this is the first state, and this is the last state. Obviously, like in this case, it's just an absolute positioning div. So I could, in theory, use basic CSS transition to do that, but it's just to get the point. The flip animation can actually flip between states, even, for example, if you are, I don't know, using flex wrap, for example, and the things go to the other side. So to make the flip work, basically, you first get the information about the first. So you can use get bounding client rect. I can never remember the name of the function. I probably got it right. I got it wrong. So basically, like the get bounding client rect gives you all this information about the position of an element. Then you actually apply the transformation, so the class of the CSS transformation that moves the element to the last position, and you take another screenshot of the position. So you get those two variables. Now, before the DOM can actually get to animate, like to move things, you actually do a bit of math. Don't be scared, because it's very easy. Like you can calculate the top with last.top minus first dot top, and this basically tells you, like, all this math tells you where you should put the div now to make it seem like it was where it was before. So in this case, we are getting a last position, like a last element. So this was already moved, but it was transformed with CSS, with translate X, translate Y, scale X and scale Y, to make it seem like it was where it was before. And now you just use a set timeout to remove these transformations. So if you do these, just by using a base CSS, you can animate things, as we've seen. So you do these, basically Svelte does all of that for you. And now, like when you click here, you can actually see the list to move around and shuffle. So obviously you send that to the designer, and she say, oh my God, this is beautiful. There's a way to make the element that change between lists do the same, because at this point you are just throwing stuff around. But I mean, again, she's right? Because if I click here, for example, the element like disappear and then appear in the other side. And luckily, again, we are using Svelte, so we don't have this problem. We can use the crossfade transition. With the crossfade transition, basically it's a function. You have to pass an empty object at least as options, but you get this send and receive function. And this send and receive function are Svelte transitions. And you can apply them to the button, and like to the button of each list, basically. And you have to pass this key. And the key is basically a way to tell Svelte, hey, if you are moving this button that has this key from this each to this each, animate with a crossfade animation between the two. So the key basically tells Svelte, okay, this is the same element. Like the element that was in this list is the same element that is in this list. So just by doing this, you can actually see that if I click here, it's smoothly transition between one list and the other. So this is pretty cool. You send it to the designer, and she say, if we can read, that's just how I envision everything. Okay. So you leave your job. Thank you for watching. And she tells, sorry for writing you this late, like it's 2:34 a.m. Sorry for writing you this late, but does this work when you change route? Like you are like this in the bed, like you probably you don't remember that you are working on something, but then you understand what she wants. Like she wants probably some element from one route to transition to other elements on another route. So that's not something that Svelte can do for you. Or is it? Because, I mean, this is a brand new API that is being shipped to the browsers, and it's called the View Transition API. So you can do document.startViewTransition and then update the DOM somehow. Like Svelte can update the DOM for you. Beware that this is not very broadly used. Like you can use it now in Chromium browsers. I think you can use it in the last version of Safari, but Firefox is lagging behind as usual, I'd say, is the new Internet Explorer. But it's very easy. So this is a simple Svelte component, right? You have onMount, you have a set interval, and it's just like displaying a basic square that counts up. So, and this is a basic thing. You can add start view transition to this. So here, what I'm doing is before adding counter plus, I'm calling this start view transition. Now, it's very subtle, but you can see that instead of being abrupt, like instead of changing between one state to the other, it's actually happening a slight fade between the numbers. And this is very much progressive enhancement, idly. Like, this is not progressive enhancement. But you can very easily add progressive enhancement, because if you do this, like, you can just check that start with transition is in the document and is of type function, if you want to be sure. And then you can call it. Otherwise, you can just update it. So if you happen to use a browser that does not support start with transition, you will just get a normal component. Now, let's add a bit of rotation. So you can do, like, to make it more visual, let's add a bit of rotation. So you can do this. You can use CSS variables, for example, and I'm doing a rotate to actually make the thing rotate 10 degrees every tick. And now you can really see that, like, there is this fading out and fading in. But yet still, it's not very, very, very good. And the reason because it's not very, very good is because, like, this is how the transition API work. So we have these two wonderful designs. And as you can see, there are small differences between the two. Like, for example, this 4, it's up there, and the dashboard invoice tab is actually. So what the View Transition API does is that it takes a screenshot of the old one. It moves the old one on top of the new one. So when you are navigating, when you are updating the state, the user is still seeing the old version. And it's literally a screenshot. It's an image. So then it slowly fades one place to the other. So the reason why we are seeing that fade is because, like, the browser is constantly taking screenshot and fading away, taking screenshot and fading away. You can tell this API to, like, this is what is happening, and you can tell this API to take a separate screenshot of some element inside the page with CSS. So just by adding this view transition name square, now you can see that we are telling the browser, hey, don't take a screenshot of the whole page. Take a screenshot of the whole page, but then take a screenshot of just the square. And you can see that, like, the difference is visible. Like, the square now, it does not fade in and out. It's actually moving slowly. You can see, like, here it's actually fading in and out. You can see the ghost of the old square, and now it's actually moving slowly between, like, ticking slowly. So you can do this with CSS. And now let's talk about Svelte. So the first thing that you might think to actually use this to animate between routes is use the before navigate hook. But there's a slight problem. The sequence of action that Svelte takes when you call, like when you navigate, is that you click, then it calls before navigate, then it calls the load function, then it calls after navigate, and then renders the page. The slight problem here is that before navigate, it's called before the load function. Now, the load functions are probably the slowest part of our application because we have to talk with the database, we have to fetch something. So given how the view transition work, it would be very problematic to freeze the page and then call the load function, because between the page and the load function can take a lot of time. So SvelteKit actually introduced on navigate, which is another hook. And basically the order is kind of the same, but on navigate is actually called after the load function. So this means that you take the load function, the data is already there, and just before moving to the new page, Svelte called the onNavigate. So if you do the start view transition inside the onNavigate, the page will actually be completely workable before loading the page, and then right before you can take a screenshot. So I kind of cheated because it's not that simple. So to actually start a view transition, what you have to do in SvelteKit is this. This may seem daunting, but it's not at all. Like we can work how it works. Basically, you call onNavigate. So you are registering a callback on onNavigate. Then you are doing the basic check for progressive enhancement. So you check if there is start view transition in the document, and if start view transition is a function. If it's not, you just return. So in this case, SvelteKit will actually just go ahead and navigate. But if you have start view transition, you have to return a new promise. If you return a promise from onNavigate, SvelteKit will actually await this promise. Then inside this promise, you can call start view transition and then call the resolve of the promise. So this line is basically you telling SvelteKit, hey, I took a screenshot of the page, please go ahead and navigate. And then you have this navigation object, which is something that SvelteKit provides you, and you can await navigation.complete. And this is basically SvelteKit telling you, hey, I navigated, you can complete your start view transition. So, I mean, it's not that complex, but you have to write this code every time you want to have a start view transition. It's quite complex. Also, like you have to sometimes with the start view transition, with how it works, you actually have to do a lot of trickery. Like, for example, you have to add classes before the view transition happen. When you click on a link, you add some class. It's a bit tricky to do something. So what if I told you that there is a simple way? And the reason why I told you is because this is the way, and we can add more confetti, even more confetti, even more confetti. Thanks, Furu. A lot of confetti, yeah, thanks, Furu, because this is exactly the Furu library. So you can actually just do this. PMPM I SvelteKit view transition, which is a library that I wrote to basically abstract away the complexity of view transition. So to get a basic result, you just need to do this. You import setup view transition, you call it, and that's it. You can call it this in your root layout, and every page will have a view transition, a basic view transition, like the classic fade in and fade out for this. I think like I can also do this. No, it's not this one. Okay. So now that you have called start view transition, you can target the view transition old and view transition new. These are basically CSS pseudo classes that target the images of the old and the new part of the DOM. And so basically in this example, I'm setting the animation duration to 2 seconds, which is painfully slow. But this means that we get this result. So you click here, and it slowly changes between one page. So this is something that you can do to get the basic transition. but obviously we can get a bit more complex. So if you call, when you call set up the transition, you get back this transition object. This transition is actually a function, and it's a Svelte action. So you can apply this transition to every element, and Svelte actions are just basically a way to execute JavaScript code on whichever element you want. So in this case, we are just telling, okay, the header, I want use transition, and I can pass a string. And by passing this string, basically what I get is that I get that view transition name part. So take a screenshot separately of this header and apply a transition name of header. In this way, I can target view transition old header instead of root. And this means that I can target with CSS. And I can tell, okay, the header, I want to have an animation that is much slower, 250 seconds. So if I do this, you can see that the header changes very quickly. So the thing, you can see that it changes super quickly. And the rest of the page, very, very painfully slow. But now let's do something a bit more interesting, for example. So this is something that I might do. So I have my list of links, for example, home, about, docs, contact. I go over them with the H inside the header. And then I say that if there is a class I apply the class of current, if $page.params.page, it's equal to link. So basically, what I'm telling is that if I am on the page that I'm trying to, I have the link to a page that is this page, I want to apply the class of current. And if I apply the class of current, this is the basic CSS to get that small thing under the link. And if I add the view transition name of underline, so I can also target something with the view transition name inside CSS. And now what I get is that when I click here, it actually slides from one page to the other. So this is something that, I mean, it's a cool effect, and it's very easy to get. Okay, enough. But now, so let's do something different than just painfully cross-fading between one page to the other. So what I can do is I can target the root, which is the main page, basically, and I can add a new animation. As we've said, the animation is just an animation. You can define your animations. In this case, I'm adding a slide animation over 250 milliseconds. And I can define the slide animation, and I say that, okay, I want this slide, the things that has this slide, to transition from a translate X of var from, I'm using CSS variable, to a translate X of var to. And then I'm defining those CSS variable, and I say that on the view transition old, I want the from to be to 0 to -100%. So consider that those are images. So I have the image of the browser, basically, and I want that image to move to translate X from 0 to -100%. The new, however, I want it to slide from 100%, so outside of the browser, to 0%. Sync together, basically. And what we are getting is this. Quite cool and quite easy to take to make it happen, right? But you might see that there is a slight problem here. When I'm moving from home to about, for example, I'm expecting the slide, the page, to slide from right to left. But when I'm moving back to home, I might expect to have the opposite, right? Well, it's not very natural that the home, it's on the left, and I see it slide from the right. So how can we fix this? The way that we can fix this is with my library. So together with transition, you get another function which is called classes. And what you can do is you can call these classes inside your script tag, and you get this navigation object, which is the same navigation object that SvelteKit provides you. And what you can do, for example, is that you can take the, like in this navigation object, you get all the information about the routing that it's happening. Like you get where you're going to, where you're coming from. And so in this case, you get access to the parameter, for example. So in this case, I have a page parameter. So I'm checking if there is a page parameter in the from object. I'm checking if there is a page parameter in the to object. And I'm literally just finding the index of these page parameters inside the array. And if from index is greater than to index, I'm returning an array with back. What this means is that if the page I'm navigating to, it's on the left, basically, I don't get anything. But if it's on the right, I don't get anything. If it's on the left, I get back this back class. And this back class is actually added to the root HTML element, and you can target that back class inside your CSS. So if I do .back, I'm actually targeting the root element only when there is a back class on the HTML element. So what I'm saying is that, okay, normally just do the old thing. So use CSS variable, you go from 0 to -100 and to 100 to 0. But if there is a back, go from 0 to 100, and the old one goes from -100 to 0. You don't need to change the animation, but now what you get is this. Click here, you click here, and then you go back, and it's light on the other side. It's also automatically clean, like because the back class will not remain on the HTML element. It will actually clean the back class when the transition finish. So there's also another function that it's returned from the setup view transition, and it's the on class, like because this classes function is just a tiny wrapper around this on function. And you have a lot of events that you can subscribe to. And the reason why I did that is because, as we've seen, SvelteKit provides you with a very low-level API. But despite being very low-level, I don't want you to use my library. I provide you with this on class, on function, and you can register events on a lot of events, and we will see that. But also, like, you have these options, like register during transition, which by default is false. Because if you are registering a new, you have to figure out that when a transition is happening, you are kinda inside of two worlds. Because if you are calling the on function on the script tag of a new page, you will call that on function when the transition is still happening. So if, for example, you add a new event on the transition finish, when the transition is finishing, if this by default was true, you will get the callback as soon as the transition that is moved to that page finished. So by default, the transition will happen on the next transition because it's probably what you want. Auto wrap true, and this means that basically in SvelteKit, a component is not actually unmounted unless the root actually change. Because if you're moving, for example, to the same root, the Svelte component that represents your page is not actually unmounted. And that might be a problem because the script tag is not rerun. So to make your transition always work, even if you are navigating to the same page, by default, I wrap every callback inside after navigate, so that after navigate it's called actually after every navigation. So by default, I wrap them around this after navigate, but you can turn off this behavior if for some reason you want to do it. There's also auto clean because this on function actually return an off function that you can call to remove that callback. But by default, you don't have to, because if there is an auto clean true, it will just clean the next navigation. I don't think this has anything. Okay, so those are the events that you have at your disposal. So you have the before start view transition that runs before the view transition actually starts. You have before navigation that happen inside the start view transition, but before the navigation actually starts from SvelteKit. Before navigation complete, which is after the navigation has started, but before the navigation is completed. After navigation complete, which is after the navigation is completed, but inside the start view transition. And then you have those three, which basically are like every view transition return three promises. The ready is when the elements, the pseudo element that you are targeting, so the images are actually added inside the DOM. So when these run, when the transition ready callback run, this means that inside the DOM, there actually are the pseudo element that the browser is cross-fading between. Inside this update callback done is basically when this function finished to run. And the transition finished is when the transition is actually completed. So this is all the events that you get. Oh, I actually added these to showcase, but then I forgot about it. So let's do something a bit more interesting.
More gifts. Come on.
Where are the gifts? We need a meme.
Yes. So we create a meme page. So basically, inside the home page, instead of just having the home with a lorem ipsum, we actually create a list of memes. I mean, this is very simple.
Oh God!
It's a list of memes.
That wasn't set up. Sorry, it didn't ask me to say that.
Very easy. You click on a meme, and it brings you to the detail of that meme, which is just that page, basically. That single meme. So you can do something like the thing about this is that we can actually specify, like, the one thing that is not very good is that when you go from a single meme, maybe, when you go from a single meme, maybe, come on. When you go from a single meme back to the page is actually using the old transition of sliding, right? It is not very good. So let's fix this. We can change the classes function so that if you are going to or from the /meme/id root, you actually return nothing. Otherwise, you can return back or forward. So we change a bit the CSS transition for this so that basically just when the HTML element has a forward or back, we are actually applying the animation of slide. And so by doing this, basically, like, we get the basic transition when we're going to the meme root and back from the meme root. When we go back, we are just fading away. We are not sliding. But when we move between the pages, we're actually getting the slide. So this is the page, how I set up everything, basically. So this is the component that is the meme page, basically. So I'm just using use transition image on this image. And I'm a bit of style, obviously. And this is obviously the funniest meme ever. Now, obviously, like, when you are doing something like this, you have to make sure that when you're moving from one page to the other, the transition name has to be unique. So you can't just use the transition name of image on every meme inside your list, because otherwise the browser will not know how to move. Like, what do I need to move? What do I need to screenshot to move to the new position? And so sometimes you might want, like, the first idea that would come to mind is that, okay, I can use the ID of the meme, for example, and use that as a view transition name. And then here I will use the same ID as a view transition name. And this is actually a problem because if you're doing this, you are asking the browser to take screenshot of every single meme, which, I mean, it's something that we enjoy to do, but the browser not. So it's taking a screenshot of every single meme, and then most of them are just thrown away. And this is not, like, it's very intensive for the browser. So the way my library fixes this is that when you're using the transition, you can also pass, instead of a single string, you can pass an object with a name property, which is the name. And when you do this, the transition name is actually not applied to every single element. And it's not applied when you are just rendering the page. It's applied only when you are navigating away from a page. And it's applied only if you return true from this function. This function is called shouldApply, that you can pass to the use transition action. And this basically get the navigation object that we are talking about. So in this case, what I'm saying is that every image has this name image, but just the image that, like, I'm checking the navigation.to.run.d. So if I move to the ID that is the same for the image.id that I am inside this each, then I am actually getting the image transition name on this image. And what this does is that when I click here, it slides into the next page instead of actually moving, like, just fading away. There is also this other thing, which is the apply immediately. Because if we go here, we can see that when we go back, we actually don't get anything. And the reason because we don't get anything is because, as I've said, the transition name of image is not applied until the transition is actually started. So there is this other function, which is apply immediately. Apply immediately is called when the component render, and if you return true from apply immediately, it will actually apply that transition name to that element immediately. So in this case, I'm checking, I'm navigating from the meme that has this ID. In this case, I will add the transition name during the navigation and remove it after the render. And this way we get this. It moves back to this place, right? So when I do, for example, this, it's sliding up and then it's sliding down. Very cool. But there's a slight problem, and I assure you I'm almost finished. And is Ryan Florence, the creator of Remix. I know that, I mean, it's React, so but he's making a very good point. And the very good point is that if you have seen, when I click on a meme which was way under the list, and I go back, the meme was actually flying off the viewport. And this is something that is not very good. He's asking for a CSS selector, but we are using JavaScript for the moment. So my library also provides you with this in viewport. So basically, you can very easily do this because this apply immediately and also should apply, returns you a Boolean, which is if the things that you are moving to is actually in the viewport. So in this case, I'm also adding just this in viewport and all the things. And this means that when I click back, if it's something that is in the view, it will navigate, like it will animate there. But if it's something that is way out of the viewport, when I click here and I go back, it will just fade away. So that's it. Those are like one small tiny bit of information that I hide for you is that this whole presentation is actually made with View Transition API. So every animation that you have seen, you can check out the library. It's called SvelteKit View Transition on GitHub. This is the slide deck. So this is the presentation. I like it moving with it. Again, there's the typo. I'm sorry. There is this website, which is the website of like it's tied to the SvelteKit transition. It's not that good, but I mean, if you want, you can check out. And if you want, you can check out mainmatter.com, which is my company. As I've said, we are also like proposing a SvelteKit and Svelte workshop. So if you're interested, check it out.
Awesome.
I actually have a
Thank you. So,
Scott, is it possible that I ask a question about the on-touch start? Because that wasn't actually mentioned.
so
All of that looks like it's for non-course pointers. How would you recommend that people handle course pointers? Like, for example, if they wanted to do this kind of thing, because obviously that follows, tracks my finger.
Yeah, I mean,
So what would you do with course?
okay, like this is not actually something that View Transition API is made for, because obviously, like, you are asking the browser to take a screenshot and then to animate to the other part. So to do that, like the interaction of dragging, I would probably, like I've done in the past, and there's this very cool bit of CSS, which is called, I have to remember how it's called.
Okay, explain it. It's okay.
I will search. I can't remember, but basically there's this very cool bit of CSS that allow you to have a scroll stop, basically. So you can tell CSS snap. Yes, exactly. CSS snap. It's not exactly the name of the property, so I will search.
Scroll snap?
Scroll snap. Yes. So in the past, I've done the same with scroll snap, which is very cool because basically the browser handle all of the touch and all things that are very difficult to do with JavaScript. And you actually get the fact that when you swipe, it will stop to the next.
So where exactly would you recommend that the distinction is made between the two?
I think when you have a clear way to you should use View Transition API when you want to animate something that like either it's something cross route, so you are moving from a route to another, you are clicking and you are moving some element from the old route to the new route, or when you want to do something that like it requires a seemingly impossible animations, like for example the flip animation, and you want to use the browser power instead of using the flip yourself. There is
so I've always found the crossfade API to be a little bit of a head twister, but it looks from your demos as though I can simply put the element in the new place, then declare a view transition. Is that the case? Am I reading this right?
yes, absolutely.
Okay. Is there an accessibility issue with using an image to make that transition so that you are effectively losing the element between those two states?
Well, obviously, I mean, this is also something that I want to emphasize, like don't overuse animations, obviously, because, and always make sure of include a prefers reduce motion, because if the user doesn't want motion, you should not use motion. And also like the whole thing, like if your website, the whole things about your website is the animations, you are doing probably a bad job of creating a website. The animation should just be a flourish, something that you add to actually get context to the user. So as if like you have accessibility concern, I don't think you have. Actually, I don't know the answer to this because this whole thing is managed by the browsers, obviously.
Sure.
So I am guessing that they are probably taking into consideration the accessibility of it. The one thing that I can tell you is that when you navigate to the new page, so it takes a screenshot and then it crossfade. What it crossfade into is a live screenshot of the DOM. So it's actually literally the DOM.
Yeah, sure.
So it's not actually an image.
So my question wasn't really around sort of vestibular issues with sort of motion sickness and that kind of thing. And by the way, if you ever do turn motion off, please give users the way to turn it back on. I turn off motion animation at the OS level but that doesn't mean to say that I don't want to see your gorgeous, well-considered animations.
Yeah.
So let me opt back into it if you do turn it off. But what I was really thinking about is you've got two lists. You're not actually making a transition between two pages. You're not losing that context. You are losing the element itself between that state and that state. All of the contextual information that a screen reader might have used has disappeared in a puff of smoke because you.
Yeah, what I was saying is that like when you are moving the element from one list to the other, the moment you actually finish the view transition, so you have the old button, the browser take a screenshot. The moment it finish taking the screenshot, the new button is just there, just below the old image.
I get it. I'm not saying that there's like a glitch. I'm not saying it's
No. What I'm saying is that the literal button, not the image of the button, the literal button.
The old button itself, the old element.
The old element is not, but the new element is it. So I mean, again, I don't have this information because my library is just wrapping around the browser API. So I actually don't know about this, but I have the feeling that given that browsers, especially like the guy that is behind the view transition API is Jake Archibald, which is very focused on accessibility. I think he think of that. And the reason why I think it's not a problem is because the moment you are swapping between one button to the other, the new button is just there, like it's right behind the image. So I think a screen reader can read that button.
So it's the same as if you had no transitions at all, because you're just flipping one to the other.
Yeah, exactly. Like for the screen reader, I don't think there is a difference. Like it's just for the user that sees the old image on top of the other one. I think I don't want to. This is not legal advice.
Tweet check.
You mentioned the view transition name a couple of times, especially in the transition action. Is that applying the same CSS property, or is there a JavaScript equivalent?
Sorry, I did not.
So you've mentioned the view transition name a couple of times,
Yes.
Especially in the action. And then you showed the CSS property, view transition name. Is that the same thing?
It's actually the same name, but the library, it's applying the view transition name with JavaScript. And this might seem a bit scary, but at this moment, view transition cannot happen without JavaScript. So if you don't have JavaScript, you just don't get the transition. So, and again, it's using progressive enhancement because obviously, like if you click on a link, it will still work.
So like everything you're doing with the pseudo selector, was it view or so
Yes.
You can do the same with the CSS property.
Yes, absolutely. Please.
Does your library work in all contexts, or is it limited to single page apps, multi-page apps, SvelteKit, whatever?
My library works just with SvelteKit.
Yeah.
And obviously it works in single page application mode. But again, that's because the start view transition API just work for the moment, just work in single page applications. So in this very moment, the view transition API just work when the whole routing is handled with JavaScript. They are working, and also like in Chrome, there is behind a flag, you can actually enable the view transition API to work in multi-page application. But the way the multi-page application view transition works is with a meta tag. So you can add a meta tag in your head to specify the fact that you want a view transition to happen, and then you can use CSS to style the things. But again, it's very, very experimental, the multi-page. It's also the single page application is experimental, but the multi-page, it's even more experimental. Okay.
Look, sorry. Thank you, Paolo. Right, so first off, I was going to say, how many features did he put into that package for us? I was going to say, he's just covered everything. I mean, straight away, before I could even speak, Scott comes out and thought, oh, what about this? And then Ollie, thinking about the accessibility side, and then Jason? No? Yeah, God. Immediately poking holes. So we're all developers here, you can see that. But thank you very much. So I want to keep everyone here just for a short while Akash, one of the organisers, gets everyone's name, because we're going to do a raffle for a CityJS ticket. What CityJS is it?
Yeah, so like the CityJS guys asked us to do a raffle. They're a conference which happens internationally. So the CityJS London is happening in April 2024, I believe. And like we've got speakers like NC Dodds and like the creator of.
It was the Royal Society.
Yeah, exactly. It's really good. Like all the big names you generally see, like Kyle Simpson and all of the like come up with. You get a chance to meet them, which is always nice.
So what we're going to do, everyone who's turned up, we're going to think of something quickly, put everyone's name in a hat, and then we're going to call it. But while Akash is doing that, sorry to put you on the spot, mate. We're going to get, so right, I just want to say, this is free. Everyone's turned up. We've had our kind hosts, Codat, sort us out of a lovely venue. We've had Extendops, my boss Chris, supply the drinks and the food. So that talk there was what, 45, like keynote sort of length, right? So it was an awesome talk, and you know, full of memes, which makes it's a good talk. And I just want to say that wasn't scripted. Me saying where are the memes? It was just total coincidence that you know, there was some memes after I said that. So it wasn't staged at all. So, but I just want to say thank you. That was an awesome quality talk from Paolo, and thank you very much. Thank you. We also have Paolo's company to sponsor him to come out here to do this talk for us. So Svelte Society is non-profit, and we you know, we depend on the kindness of other companies to help us out. So really do appreciate that. And one last thing is, I'm going to stick Anthony on the spot. There is the founder of Svelte Society London, and if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't be doing this now. So say something inspiring.
All I'll say is that thanks, Scott, because honestly, I've not been really in it recently. I'm too busy. I have a new child. Scott has absolutely nailed it, and he's doing a brilliant job. I really, really like what he's done here, and thank you all for coming.
So thanks everyone for watching, and thanks again to Paolo, thanks again to Codat, and we'll see you in the next one, which is November, sort of. I don't know if we confirmed yet, but should be November, and we'll have some talks for that as well. So thank you everyone for turning up. I'm guessing there's a pub nearby, so we can go for drinks afterwards if you want to come and hang out. But that's it. What's that?
You know the name of it. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, there's one that way, there's one that way. So
if half go that way and half go that way.
yeah, before we go home as well. So
yeah, we should just like agree on one name and then just.
But that's it. Right, we're going to cut stream, and we're going to, if everyone's okay, you want the ticket to CJS in next year, write your name down. We'll sort something out, and we'll do a raffle, and then we'll announce it somewhere.
Let's do it right now. Like there's a website where you put in people's names and then it picks random.
Is it written in Svelte? Because if not,
If we write one quickly.
Exactly, we can write one quickly. We have like
transitions.
we can even animate the.
Let's just get.
And you have confetti at the end.
The confetti, yes, the confetti. Puru, it's a.
Yeah, Peru. Awesome package.
How well that.
Stream, and then we can all chat. And, yeah. Oh my